This is Canada Reads American Style, featuring two friends who love Canada Reads and Canadian literature. Welcome our host Rebecca from Michigan and Tara from Ontario.
Hello and welcome back. This is Tara and I'm here with author Alice Fitzpatrick today. Welcome, Alice.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you for joining me. So before we get into the goods, let's read your bio so I can introduce you to everyone. So Alice Fitzpatrick has contributed short stories to literary magazines and anthologies and is a fearless champion of singing, cats, all things Welsh, comma, and the Oxford comma. Her summers spent with her Welsh family in Pembrokeshire inspired the creation of the Meredith Island Mysteries, which include Secrets in the Water and A Dark Death. The Meredith Island Christmas Mystery, A Killing Cold, will be released June 2026. The traditional mystery appeals to her fascination with what makes seemingly ordinary people commit murder. Alice lives in Toronto but dreams of a cottage on the Welsh coast. Welcome, Alice.
Thank you so much.
I am so excited to talk murder mysteries with you. So with two books into the Meredith Island series, why don't you tell us about Meredith Island and your protagonist, Cait Galloway?
So when I decided to write a traditional British mystery series, I wanted an isolated location because traditionally, if you look at the Agatha Christie books, they're all in isolated places with a group of people that basically no one sort of comes in or out. I've always lived near large bodies of water. I love the sea, and an island was perfect. Meredith Island is make-believe. It's made up. I have been in writing groups where people spend lots of time looking it up on the internet. It doesn't exist. And the reason it doesn't exist is it gives me control over the plants and the animals and everything to do with the island. It was inspired. It's not based on, but it was inspired by places where I used to spend my summer, which is a place called Tenby, which was anyone from Wales knows about Tenby. It's a very famous sort of summer resort on the west coast. And my aunt and uncle owned a couple of hotels there, and so I would spend my summers there. And we're looking back in the '60s, and so the island is sort of reminiscent of traditional Welsh, and it's very sort of reminiscent of the '50s and '60s. But the islanders have kept pace with technology, and have kept pace with changing morality. So that's where that comes from. I also realized that if I was going to be carrying the setting around in my head for the next 20 or 30 years, as I hopefully wrote, 50 or 60 books in the series, that it would have to be a place where I felt comfortable and welcome. And sort of that's what I feel about Meredith Island. It's a place where I would like to live, minus all the murders.
Yeah.
So Cait, my protagonist, Cait, and if you know anything about murder mysteries, almost every protagonist in a traditional murder mystery is called Cait. But that's fine. Cait was always the name I wanted to give my daughter. If I had children, it's also the name of my cousin, so it's an homage to my cousin Cait. Cait is intelligent. She's more left brain than I am. She's academic, and she cares very much about her community and her family. She grew up on the island. She left the island to go to university. She had in her mind that she wanted to be a university professor. She got as far as her master's degree, and then she got pregnant and realized that her husband had just joined the police force, that they would need two incomes. So she became an English teacher. I mean, she says in the second book, in A Dark Death, that she always wanted to teach children who had not only read and could discuss intelligently George Eliot, but knew that she was a woman. So she has an ex-husband who is in the police force. She has a daughter who is a barrister. So she has a lot of good support in solving mysteries. And she always seems to have because she cares so much about the island, always somebody on the island is the prime suspect in the murder. So she always gets sort of pulled into helping them.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like Cait. So setting is an important aspect of a cozy mystery. This is cozy, in there, even though there's murder. I like it's a little cozy for me in
It
that
is.
I want to be on Meredith Island with
Okay.
these people. So, as a writer, how do you create a sense of place, a setting that your readers will want to inhabit, regardless of the high incidence of murder?
I've been told I went to a friend of mine who I used to teach with, moved to Ottawa, and she invited me via Zoom to her book club. And I was told by by a couple of folks there who grew up in small towns that it really has the feeling of a small town.
Hmm.
Um, I grew up in Oakville, which wasn't that small, but we sort of, sort of the area around our high school. It was like everybody in the island knows everybody else, and if anything happens on the island, it's like, it's like a telegraph. Everybody knows about it within an hour. So it's that feeling of not only everybody knowing your business, but also caring about it too. In A Dark
Yeah,
Death, Dr. Marcus, the island doctor, says no one ever dies alone on Meredith Island. There's always people there, to make soup and bring you food and take care of you and talk to you.
hmm,
And there's that feeling of people taking care of each other. If you go back 150 years, the island was basically nobody lived there until an American industrialist moved and took over the island as his estate and built this manor house. And all of the islanders that can trace their sort of lineage back to that time were descended from the workers. Basically, what happened was his wife died in childbirth. He was so upset, he basically just shut up the manor house and left. And the islanders kind of stayed thinking he was going to come back, and he never came back. So they are all, because they were all basically workers on the estate, they're all very self-sufficient. So that's an element in the setting. A lot of things like what the island looks like, I based on the area around where my family was in Wales, because they lived on the coast. So the rocky cliffs and the little scrubby plants that are on the cliffs where the wind blows in, and the changing colors of the water and things
yeah.
like this.
Yeah, it was very evocative because I could picture the island. The whole time when I was reading it, I could picture the island or where they were on the island in the water. So you did a great job of that. Meredith Island is a place. I understand why people try to look for it to see if it's real because you did a good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so in addition to the setting, what I also love about a mystery series is the cast of characters which we get to know. And I find that they are almost as important as the mystery itself. As a writer, which comes first, the characters or the mystery when you are setting out to start the series?
Oh gosh, I did struggle over this answer. My I In the 90s, I wrote literary short stories and published in literary magazines. And then I decided I really wanted to write novels. And if I was going to, and I tried to write a literary novel and it didn't go anywhere, it kind of meandered all over the place. What I like about the crime genre is that there is a specific structure. And I think I needed that structure. So my first attempt at writing a mystery was a 40-page short story, which I wrote about 35 years ago. And it became the basis for the first Meredith Island book. It had Cait and the artist David in it. It had Cait's grandmother. It had, for anyone who's read the book, it also has Hannah Sutherland in it. But strangely enough, I place it off the coast of England.
Oh, okay.
But when it came to actually expanding this into Secrets in the Water, I'd say the location came first, because I absolutely love Wales. I love the Welsh people. I love the fact that I got to spend all my summers with my aunt and uncle and grandparents in Tenby. So I would say the location came first, because I'm I can see Meredith Island, but also I can see parts of Tenby in the location. The characters came next, because I have always loved eccentric British characters, and I can say
Mhm.
that being British. I very much liked the TV show of Hamish Macbeth, of MC Beaton's series Hamish Macbeth. I actually like the TV show more than I like the books because
Really?
I find the characters are much more eccentric.
Hmm.
And so I really love those eccentric people, and a lot of those people wandered into my book. And so I think location first, but also characters became very, very important to me. It also has elements of Agatha Christie. It's got the Gothic manor house, the eccentric characters. I love the idea of challenging myself to solve the mystery, and I never did with Agatha Christie because I think she always withheld too much information.
Yeah.
But I wanted to challenge my readers, and so far, no one's told me they figured out who the murderers are. Which is
I have not. I've just read the first one, Secrets in the Water.
yeah,
So I've got like a Dark Death is like I'm queuing it up. I have did not figure out the murderer in the first book, which I like. I don't like to figure like I try to figure it out. Like but in the end, I don't really want to figure it out. Like I want that reveal.
yeah.
Yeah, I really do. Like those times, a few times, very few times that I have figured it out, I always feel kind of cheated that I figured it out.
It's like, what's the point of reading the rest of it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I know I have not. That's also what I like about the mystery genre as opposed to maybe like romance, like our traditional romance. It's always got the happy ending, always has
And
a
you know
happy
they're
ending.
going to get together in the
You
end.
know, you're going to get together. So that's great. But I like that a mystery, the author, you don't know. You like to think that most times you're going to the killer is going to be revealed, but really the author doesn't have to do that to you for the reader either. That's what I love about a mystery is it is very open to how it's going to end.
Yeah, and as I was talking to my editor, she's editing the third book, and I had said something in a scene, and I made her, and it was a scene in the first 70 pages of the book, and the way I phrased why I want to keep this scene in, and it made it appear that I was telling her that this person had killed whoever was going to be killed. And she goes, "Don't tell me that. I don't want to know who did it." I go. It's always what I do. This is a hint for anyone who reads my books. It's always the last person you expect.
Hmm.
I think that's true for a lot of crime writers.
Yeah.
If it's going to be an obvious person, there has to be a reason for it, and there has to be a surprise, maybe in motive or something. But for me, it's always the last person you expect.
Yeah. But I liked that once it's revealed that I can see
And then it makes sense.
and that yes, you
And
can
you go,
see the
"Oh, I
crumbs
didn't
that
see that
lead
coming,"
to
but
it.
it all makes sense now that I see it.
Yeah.
It's that person. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the perfect reveal. And yeah, and as for the characters, I loved her best friend. I'm drawing a blank on her name now. The
Siobhan.
art, yes, she was great. I loved all the tea and scones because I also in for the food when it comes to a mystery series. I like if there's a little bit of food in there. So yeah, and that's all part of the experience of wanting to revisit Meredith Island.
Well, that's also part of how I do the setting. I try to include Welsh in every book
Hmm.
because the Welsh language. I mean, what's happened in Wales is in a way, was very similar to what happens to Canadian Indigenous folks and American Indigenous folks as well. Is that they were put in schools. They were told they couldn't speak their language. The language was almost outlawed. It was started to die. It was sort of kept alive in some of the smaller villages in the valleys. And so now all it's like here in Canada where you have to study French for a year in high school. Everyone, all the Welsh students have to do a year of Welsh. So the language is coming back. I want to make sure. So I've got a Welsh translator who helps me with the Welsh, and the food is so important. Maybe because when I
Yeah.
was a kid, we didn't eat a lot of traditional English food here in Canada. But when I went back home, my aunt and my grandmother would always cook. My grandmother cooks scones every morning and
Mm.
stuff like that. So food is really, I guess, it's important to me. And it's, if anyone has read the books, it's very important to Siobhan
Yeah. Well, and if you're like solving a murder, you need sustenance,
too.
right? You need your cup of tea. You just cannot not go without tea. So you've been writing a long time, even though these are like the novels are new. You mentioned the short stories. How did you begin writing?
Writing for me was never a conscious decision. I've always been a writer, and I think there are certain people and certain cultures, and going back to the indigenous culture, there are certain cultures that understand the world through storytelling. And that's me. I mean, if I'm late for somewhere, for something, and something happened on a streetcar, somebody else might say, oh, there was a problem on the streetcar. I will tell you for 20 minutes exactly what happened. I'm a storyteller. I grew up in a fairly dysfunctional home. And so I escaped by writing, by creating worlds that I could escape to. I think a lot of writers are like that.
Hmm.
I also, I love to read. My grandmother would send me books from England, to send me English books to make sure I didn't lose touch with my culture. And when I ran out of books, when I realized there were only two Alice in Wonderland books, I started writing my own. And the same with Pippi Longstocking's series, a strong woman. I think
Yep.
I don't know whether girls read those books anymore. I started writing my own stories, and it wasn't until somebody pointed out to me just a few years ago I was writing fan fiction
You were.
before we even had, because we're talking about the 50s and 60s. We didn't even have that term back then. And a young woman came up to me. I was at Indigo's doing some signings, and a young woman, she was about 9 or 10 years old, came up and go, I want to be a writer. Tell me how.
She's
So
amazing.
she was wonderful. We talked about her favorite books, and I said, why don't you? So you already know the characters. I didn't tell her this, but she already knew the characters. She knew some of the themes. She knew the settings. She knew some of the conflicts. I said, why don't you write books about that? And she thought that was wonderful. So, I mean, my advice to any young person who's starting to write out and doesn't know what to write about, write fan fiction. It's a great way to start because you already know so much. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know so much about what's going on. So I started writing that way. And I wrote short stories all the way through my high school years. I wrote my first novel when I was 13. About ballet, which was a passion of mine. I didn't realize that having a Slavic body, my father's Polish, whether having a Slavic body, meant I would probably never be able to dance. I wasn't skinny enough. But I also wrote, and looking back on this, I realized how precocious I was as a child. I wrote a skit for Carol Burnett and actually sent it to her. It was my first rejection notice. They very nicely said they couldn't accept things from writers outside.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's my favorite rejection
Oh my God.
letter.
So how old were you?
I must have been about 12 or 13.
Okay, but I mean, maybe it didn't come directly from Carol Burnett herself, but that her staff,
They were nice to me.
that they responded to
They made
you.
the effort
Yeah,
because I made my own cover for it. They could tell I was a child, so
that's
they were
amazing.
very nice. So
Yeah.
I have always been a writer. I stopped writing when I went to university, and I went to university for 2 undergraduate degrees and a master's degree. And then finally, I guess back in the 80s, I said, no, I really want to start writing again. So that was it. Oh, my first publication, ironically enough, was in high school. I was a poem. So I decided I was in, and it was edited by, and I didn't realize how important this was until I said to somebody, it was edited by George Bowering, Canadian poet George Bowering. It was a
Wow.
collection of high school students' poems. And on the flush from that success, I decided I was going to be the youngest Canadian poet to win the Governor General's Award until I realized I wasn't a poet.
But George Bowering saw something there.
George
That's
Bowering,
cool.
yes, bless his heart.
Yeah, that's okay. You got George Bowering and Carol Burnett
Burnett.
in 5 minutes. That's awesome.
I was a precocious child.
Yeah, I love it. I love
I
it.
was a writer. I mean, I was naturally a writer. That's how I express myself.
Yeah, that's okay. On that note, how about you read a little excerpt for us?
Okay, so I am going to read to you from A Dark Death, which is the second book in the series. In the first book in the series, Cait is just trying to decide whether or not she wants to come live on the island. Her aunt committed suicide when Cait was just 3 years old, and so Cait decides it was considered that the police considered it a suicide, but the islanders always believed she committed murder. So so Cait solves a 50-year-old cold case in the first book.
Mhm.
So in the second book, which is more like a regular mystery, everything starts happening in the present tense. Present, yes. So in A Dark Death, a team of archaeology students have arrived with their professor to excavate the remains of a medieval monk cell. I love archaeology anyway, so I decided to include that. But they found something much more interesting, what they believe are the remains of a Roman temple. The students stumble upon a dead body, and the scene I'm going to read to you takes place after that discovery, and Noah is one of the students. Noah was nervous. He'd never done anything like this before, meeting someone he wasn't sure he could trust in such an isolated place, away from warm, comforting voices and friendly faces. Up on the barren cliff, he watched the waves smash against the razor-sharp rocks below. Screaming birds flew high above him. Even they seemed unnerved by the rough sea, fearful of being dashed to pieces by a strong undercurrent of wind. But maybe it was his guilt that made him see the environment around him in such a stark light. After all, he was about to break the law. For someone who'd never so much as dropped a candy wrapper in the street, this felt very wrong. All his life, he'd taken the safe way out. He'd done what he was told, what was expected. Noah works hard. Noah pays attention in class. Noah plays well with others. The same uninspiring comments on his school reports. Just once he'd wanted someone to say, Noah doesn't live up to his potential. He did so want to have potential, the possibility of being outstanding in something. But Noah had finally come to accept that he was consistently unexceptional. Why couldn't he be like Jude or Tristan? They held people's attention in conversations, had interesting futures ahead of them. The best Noah could hope for would be to work in a bank or his father's car dealership. But maybe things were changing. For once, he'd been in the right place at the right time. An opportunity had presented itself, and he was going to grab it with both hands. The good Lord helps those who help themselves, his Nan always said. Maybe God was watching and taking note. He thought a lot about how much to ask for. On crime shows, people ask for all sorts of money, and the other person always manages to come up with it, don't they? Why should this be any different? Definitely enough to pay for a car and make a down payment on a flat. His own flat. His parents would wonder how he could afford it. He'd deal with that later. If he had his own place, maybe Aaron from his medieval society class would go out with him. It wouldn't be like that humiliating business with the herb girl. His own flat would make him feel in control. Aaron would be curled up on his new leather sofa, sipping wine, and they'd end up in bed before the night was over. He was just picturing her slipping out of her tight jeans when something crashed into him from behind. His breath exploded out of him. It took his brain a second to realize the force that had propelled him forward and over the cliff edge. The gray rocks below rushed at him. At the precise moment when he understood there was no escape, there was a sharp burst of pain, and everything went black.
Alice. I was like listening and I'm like, okay, I cannot wait to get to know Noah more. I am not going to get to know Noah more.
Well, you can get to know Noah more.
Okay.
There's a lot comes before that.
Okay, I'm hooked. I'm hooked. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. See, this is why I don't necessarily think I'm a cozy writer.
No, I have this weird thing, like even the Louise Penny books, which I love.
Yeah.
I consider them a cozy series. They're not. I only consider them cozy series because I want to be inhabit that place that's in the book. Do you know what I mean? Like they're always books that I want to. I want the setting, and they're books that I want to return to. That I love being in that world.
A dear friend of mine once referred to Louise Penny as a cozy police procedural.
Oh,
So I don't know.
it's very strange, right? So I have the same feeling with Meredith Island. It's not a cozy. Like I know the cozy fantasies, cozy mysteries, they're out there. But what I consider cozy is just something that makes me want to be there in that,
Mm-hmm.
even with all the death, you know? Good job. Thank you. Okay, I also love a Christmas mystery. So why don't you tell us about the upcoming Christmas Meredith Island book?
So most cozy writers and most traditional mystery writers will write a Christmas book because I think it's Christmas more than several dead bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So, Killing Cold, which we are editing right now, will be the third book in the series, and I want the reader, to be able to experience the joy of an island Christmas and all the crazy things that happen. We have a pantomime and we have a party at the pub. How I write the books, and I hate comparing myself to. Again, it's quite precocious to compare myself to Margaret Lawrence. But what she did in the Manawanka books was she would take a different group of characters in Manawanka and put them in a different book. And so what I do with my books is I have a central group of characters like Cait and Siobhan and a few other people. And then people who just had walk-on parts or a couple of lines in each book will then be featured in the next books. So in this book, we see firsthand the dynamics of Cait's relationship with her barrister daughter and her police detective ex-husband. So she's making plans to spend time with Alex, her daughter. They haven't had a lot of time to spend together because Alex is determined she's going to be a partner in her chambers. She's a lawyer. But when Alex arrives, she arrives accompanied by her father, Cait's ex-husband, which is a big surprise. The island's matriarch, Sophie Sutherland, is eager to reunite with her old beau, Teddy. They courted 50 years ago, and Sophie's father said that he wasn't good enough for her because he just went around picking plants. He ended up being one of the world's leading botanists, teaching in most of the major universities. So his wife is now his dead, and there's a lot of stories about people who dated in high school and then sort of got back together again 40 years later. So this is what's happened. Teddy arrives with his son and his son's antagonistic second wife and her brother and this whole group of people. Everyone goes to the pub to celebrate Christmas, which is, I think, is the day before Christmas Eve. But the party comes to an abrupt end when someone dies of cyanide poisoning. So this is to be is sort of an homage to Agatha Christie, Sparkling Cyanide. There's a big blizzard comes up, and James, Cait's husband. He's the only policeman on the island, and he has to take it upon himself to solve the mystery. There's no forensics available. They have minimum connection to the island, to the mainland, and the police department. So basically, it's old-fashioned police work as Cait and Alex and James have to solve the mystery.
Okay, I love that James is getting a bigger role because we are introduced to him in the first book.
We are.
And I really liked him. Like, we didn't get a lot of James. I really did. There was something about James that I really liked, even just those little snippets that we got, that I was like, I hope there's more James. I wanted more
There
James
is
in the
more James.
future.
And the thing with James in the first book is the difference between James and Cait is that Cait likes being on her own. She's moved back to the island. She's a writer, and she just likes having that freedom and not having, pick up James's underwear from the side of the bed all the time.
Yeah.
But he has regrets.
Mm-hmm.
In the first book, he has regrets that he feels he was really responsible for their marriage breaking up.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that dynamic plays out in the third book.
I'm really excited because I think that's what I liked about him, is that he recognized his role in their marriage collapsing.
Yeah.
And that's why it's kind of like, I kind of wanted him. I wanted more. So yay. That's amazing. Okay. Now I love to end a chat with increasing my TBR.
Okay.
So this is where I invite you to share some recent books that you've read, some favorite books. Oh, I would love to know. Obviously, we've mentioned Agatha Christie, but if you have other favorite mystery writers, throw them. I'm ready for it all.
Okay, I tend to be, because I write British, I tend to read British. One of my favorite readers is Elly Griffiths.
Yes, I have not read her yet, but she's on my list.
Her Ruth Galloway series is wonderful. Ruth is a forensic anthropologist, and so she gets involved in solving crimes that way. And she's also writing a book about a woman called Harbinder Kaur, a policewoman in India, which is very lovely. I read anything that Anthony Horowitz has written.
Yeah.
The Magpie Murders, Moonflower Murders, Maple Hall Murders. I love Glenda Young's Seaview Hotel series. I'm currently reading the latest one, which is The Deadly Dancing at the Seaview Hotel, because my aunt and uncle owned hotels, and I sort of know how hotels work from the back end. And so it's about a woman who runs a hotel in the UK. Shout out to Canadians, Cathy Ace. And she has two series, the Cait Morgan series, which is being currently made into a TV show.
Oh, excellent.
which is about a Welsh, a woman who solves mysteries, and the WISE, WISE, Enquiries Agency, which is her series actually set in Wales.
Okay.
And for the Canadians, the Torontonians, I guess, although you don't have to be a Torontonian to love her books. Diane Scott writes a series, I think her name is Christine Lane series. She writes a series that's set in the 1960s on the Toronto Islands.
Oh.
And her protagonist is a policewoman. Diane's father, I didn't know this. I love finding out about Toronto. I didn't know this, but they had their own sort of almost separate police force on the islands. And Diane's father was a policeman on the islands. So she
Okay.
got to talk to people who actually were police on the island. She's talked to women who were police women in the early 60s. And so she's written about 4 or 5 books on what happens on the islands. So it's quite fun if you're from Toronto, and if you're not from Toronto, it's quite fun, period.
I was going to say still fun because I'm not
It's
from
still fun.
Ontario originally, but I love reading historical fiction set in and around Toronto. And the islands, I've only visited like twice the islands.
Yeah.
Once when I first moved here, so like 30 years ago. And this past summer, I went to the islands. They're amazing and beautiful.
You should come out for the Christmas market. Diane
Okay.
and I do the Christmas market out
Yeah.
on the islands at the beginning of December, and it's really the first night is the Thursday, the Friday night. All the islanders come, and it's like a party. They all stand around and talk and it's like a party. And then the people from the outside, the mainlanders, come on Saturday. But it's funny being there on the islands is like almost, it's very reminiscent of Meredith Island, because I was my second year this past Christmas, and there were, I think it was Saturday, there were 3 older gentlemen standing in front of my booth, in front of my table, and they were talking. And they apparently, one guy said, we've known each other since we were 2 years old. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's Phoebe Scully and Smee from my book.
Yep. Yeah.
I must be doing something right if art is, real life is imitating art. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm putting it in my calendar for next year. That sounds amazing.
Thank you. I'll see you there.
Yep. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. That sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Alice. This was really enjoyable.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed myself.
And like, as I mentioned, keep in contact. Whenever you have a new book coming out, let me know, and I'm going to share the word. Okay. For our listeners, we're going in the show notes. We'll have Alice's website in the show notes, as well as the publisher of her first 2 books, Stonehouse Publishing. I'm going to put their website in the show notes as well, so you can purchase the first 2 books from them. The Christmas one, will that be purchasable through your?
Yeah, through me, through Amazon, through Indigo, all the regular places. I'm not sure if it's going to be in bookstores because it's self-published, but
Yeah.
It'll be available online, and
Excellent.
hopefully through my website. The other thing is, if people want to sign up for my newsletter, which you can do through my website, I am posting clues as to, not to who done it, but I'm posting clues about the next book. So, and I do giveaways. Yes.
Okay, I love an author newsletter. So sign up, people. Okay, thank you, and happy reading, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our bookish journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing Canada Reads American Style wherever you listen. You can connect with the podcast and Rebecca on Instagram at Canada Reads American Style, and with Tara at On a Branch Reads. Until next time, keep reading.